The U.S. Army projects it'll fall short by nearly 40,000 recruits over the next 2 years. The Navy and Air Force are now offering historic incentives for new recruits. Katherine Kuzminski is a senior fellow and director of the Military Veterans and Society program at the Center for New American Security. Kate, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So the Navy's offering up to $65,000 for new recruits. The Air Force is offering up to $50,000. What are your thoughts on these monetary incentives?
I think monetary incentives have historically worked as a way to bring individuals on, but I think there's some really interesting non-monetary incentives that we're seeing the services offer. One program is the Army's Buddy program, which allows individuals to join basic training with up to 4 friends and be guaranteed to go in the same MOS. We also see people getting more of their choices for their military occupational specialty as opposed to the needs of the service in order to fill those positions.
Has that been working?
The results are slowly coming in, but I think that it's tapping into what the youth of today are really looking for outside of those monetary incentives.
And the Buddy program that you're talking about, is that the pre-basic training program, or that's something different?
That's a separate program. So that's a way to tap into the individuals who have a propensity to serve, but who might otherwise not meet the standards. So the Army has a pre-basic training course, one for physical fitness standards and the other for academic standards, to get those individuals up to speed before they go to basic training. What's really interesting about that is it doesn't lower the standard, it helps those interested individuals meet the standard that's in place.
That's what I was going to ask you, because obviously we need people to be fit and to meet academic standards. So how do they go about helping people meet those standards?
For the physical fitness training, they are evaluated at regular intervals during the program. There's a focus on diet and exercise to get them up to that standard. The academic preparatory course is a bit more focused on the academic side of things, and individuals are evaluated as they go through. And once they meet the standard, they can then go off to basic training.
And academically, it's just a high school diploma.
That's correct, or GED, high school diploma or equivalent, and then the ASVAB score. So the course helps them raise their score to be eligible for service.
So do you think other branches should be following the Army's lead? Do you think this is a good program?
Certainly. So the services are all looking for individuals who have an interest in serving and who can meet the standard. While the services are working on increasing interest in serving, they have a captive audience in those who are already interested but just need a little help to get there.
Well, regarding eligibility requirements, only about a quarter of Americans actually meet the standards to join a military service. Do you think those standards should be reduced or changed in any way?
So those standards exist for a reason. We want a military that reflects the highest that our country has to offer. But there are some standards that perhaps could be relooked at. So one of the areas, the services all offer waivers for different medical conditions. So those conditions where the services are already handing out waivers at a high level might be revisited as something that doesn't necessarily need to go through that scrutiny.
Like what? What kind of waivers?
So ADHD is one that waivers are frequently offered for. Conditions like eczema can sometimes be disqualifying, but don't necessarily cut back on an individual's ability to serve.
So retention is also a big part about the numbers and keeping the readiness of the force. What are the services doing on that front? So
each of the services is managing their workforce a bit differently, but we've seen a transition from the industrial era model of managing a service member's career to more of a talent management model. So taking into consideration more of the preferences that individuals have based on location, based on roles and positions that they'd like to fill, and matching that with their experiences and knowledge.
You know, it's said that data is the new ammunition, and it's a very digital force, right? Because warfare is changing. What do the services need to do to attract those types of recruits?
Yeah, those recruits certainly have other options in other fields. We think of Silicon Valley as being a real competitor to the more technical fields. But what the services can really capitalize on is the mission that they offer to individuals. There's nothing like serving your country and protecting the country's needs, even if the services can't offer the types of compensation that the private sector could.
And how did the military get into this situation in the first place, that this has become such a big problem?
I think year over year, the services are, with the exception of the Marines, always trying to meet their recruiting goals towards the end of the fiscal year, which we're in right now. I think 2 years of COVID, or 2.5 years of COVID, and recruiters not being in high schools and on college campuses has really hindered the ability to tap into the target demographic that we typically go after. And also we have to remember that nearly 1.5 million high school seniors also forewent college opportunities as they're trying to figure out life after doing school remotely for the last couple of years. So I think that we'll see some systematic changes over the next couple of years now that we have high schoolers back in school.
And just briefly, what does it look like for a new recruit? What's the commitment level? How long do they need to stay in, and what are the benefits?
So contracts vary depending on what's offered. Typically about 3 to 4 years for enlistees, about 4 to 5 years for those going into the officer corps. But certainly the access to educational benefits, to healthcare, which a lot of young folks aren't necessarily thinking about when they're joining, but matters more and more over time, becomes a real retention incentive. Also the new retirement system, that the old system required you to stay in 20 years to access, and now looks more like a 401k that you'd get at a private employer.
All right, Kate, well, appreciate you coming and talking to us about this. Thank you. Coming up on Government Matters, a pandemic program created to help unemployed veterans ended up plagued with problems. We'll be right back.